Good morning. Today we are reading from Goddesses in Everywoman. This is the old edition from, oh my goodness. This was published in 1985. Copyright 1984. There is a new edition linked in the description on Amazon, which you can purchase. All your purchases, it is an affiliate link, so all your purchases support the channel. This winter, I am doing a deep dive into Demeter and Persephone because I'm investigating how the descent of Persephone is a metaphor, an allegory for the postpartum period and the descent after birth, and the evolution into the mother and the death of the maiden. So I want to read to you today about Demeter from the perspective of Jean Shinoda Bolen, who is a Jungian analyst, professor, and scholar. Demeter is the maternal archetype. She represents maternal instinct fulfilled through pregnancy or through providing physical, psychological, or spiritual nourishment to others. This powerful archetype can dictate the course of a woman's life. It can have a significant impact on others in her life and can predispose her to depression if her need to nurture is rejected or thwarted. The mother archetype was represented on Mount Olympus by Demeter, whose most important roles were as mother of Persephone and as provider of food, as goddess of grain and spiritual sustenance, the Eleusinian mysteries. Although other goddesses were almost also mothers, Hera and Aphrodite, her daughter was Demeter's most significant relationship. She was also the most nurturing of the goddesses. A woman with a strong Demeter archetype longs to be a mother. Once she becomes a mother, she finds a fulfilling role. When Demeter is the strongest archetype in a woman's psyche, being a mother is the most important role and function in her life. The image of mother and child, most often represented in Western art as the Madonna and child, corresponds to an inner picture that deeply moves her. The mother archetype motivates women to nurture others, to be generous and giving, and to find satisfaction as caretakers and providers. Thus, the nurturing aspect of the Demeter archetype can be expressed through the helping professions, teaching, nursing, counseling, in any job in which helping others is part of the role, and in any relationship in which she can be a nurturing person. The archetype is not restricted to being a mother. It's important to invoke these things when we struggle to embody these archetypes. So for me, as someone who has really struggled to embody motherhood, to have a healthy relationship with the archetype of mother, Demeter can be related to and called upon for assistance, which is why I'm leaning into her now. It's also a really good time to explore the myth of the descent of Persephone, which we will do when we get really a grasp on who Demeter is, because she is the center of that story. The mother is the center of that story. And being able to understand the level of grief and mourning and anguish that the mother has over the rape of her daughters is a really important, it's just so critical for us to be able to process the many, many rapes of our psyches and our bodies, our physical bodies, the physical planet, and be able to approach this grief from a very real way. Maternal instinct. On the biological level, Demeter represents maternal instinct, the desire to become pregnant and have a baby, which some women have yearned to do as long as they can remember. Not me. The Demeter archetype is a compelling force towards getting pregnant. A woman may be quite conscious of how strong the instinct is and may be able to decide when she will fulfill this deep desire. But if unconsciously motivated by Demeter, she may find herself accidentally pregnant. What happens after she discovers an unplanned pregnancy indicates how strong this archetype is in a particular woman. When an abortion is clearly the most sensible or responsible course of action, a non-Demeter woman can arrange to have the abortion and can feel relieved afterward. And from that point on, she will take great care never to accidentally get pregnant again. In contrast, when Demeter is a strong influence, abortion may be in the woman's best interest, but she may find herself unable to have one. Abortion goes against a deep inner imperative in her to have a child. Now, that is relatable. None of my 3 pregnancies were planned. And it's so fascinating now to contemplate this, that, the Demeter archetype is probably a lot stronger in me than I realize, and it needs healing, because termination definitely was on the table, but there was a very strong will against it that I couldn't explain. So this is helpful. As a consequence, she may have the baby rather than the abortion, thus altering the entire course of her life. If she does decide to have an abortion, she will feel conflict and turmoil during and after the choice-making process and the procedure. She will feel grief rather than relief, or a mixture of such feelings. Finally, one would think that having gone through so much unhappiness, this type of woman would make sure it would not happen again. But often the opposite is true. She goes through cycles of pregnancy, turmoil, abortion, and depression, because the drive to become pregnant, once thwarted, becomes even stronger. I want to speak to this resistance of embracing Demeter, embracing the mother goddess, because she's been so devalued in society. We continue to devalue her by rejecting the aspects that are drawn to her. So this is a good reading. Demeter's maternal instinct is not restricted to being a biological mother or to nurturing only her own children. Being a foster parent or babysitter allows many women to continue expressing maternal love after their own children have grown or gone. The goddess herself had this role with Demophoon. Emily Applegate, a San Diego woman who's receiving recognition as a special foster mother, personifies this aspect of Demeter. She cares for Mexican babies who are so malnourished or ill that their survival is threatened, taking them into her home, where they become part of her own family of 3 sons and 1 adopted daughter. She is described as a mama segunda, a second mother. Applegate, as well as the more celebrated DeBolts, who have adopted handicapped children of many races, have an abundance of maternal instinct and ability to nurture and foster growth that is typically Demeter. Now, I will say this, hoarding of children for selfish reasons and the lack of embodiment of a mother in healthy relationships, and the martyrdom and codependency is a reflection of our really bastardized relationship with the mother goddess. Okay, next section, food provider. Feeding others is another satisfaction for a Demeter woman. This I relate to. She finds nursing her own children tremendously satisfying. It gives her pleasure to provide ample meals for family and guests. If they enjoy her food, she basks in the warmth of feeling like a good mother, rather than, as Athena might, like a gourmet chef. If she works in an office, she enjoys serving others coffee, in marked contrast to an Artemis woman who feels demeaned and refuses to do so unless the men also take turns. Demeter, as goddess of grain, provided humanity with the ability to cultivate crops and was responsible for the fruitfulness of nature. Similarly, women who move to the country to grow their own food, bake bread, can fruits, and share their bounty with others are expressing the Mother Nature aspect of Demeter. Hi, everyone. Say hi in the chat. Say good morning to me. I would love to say hi. Persistent mother. Maternal persistence is another Demeter attribute. Such mothers refuse to give up when the welfare of their children is involved. Many special education classes for handicapped children exist because a Demeter mother fought to get what her child needed. And the Argentine mothers of missing sons and daughters who were abducted by the state police were also like Demeter in their persistence. Called the Madres de la Plaza de Mayo, the Mothers of the May Plaza, they refused to sign themselves to the loss of their children and continued to protest against the dictatorship, even though it was dangerous to do so. Stubbornness, patience, and perseverance are Demeter's qualities that, as Zeus ruefully discovered, may eventually influence a powerful man or an institution. It's exactly what Demeter did in the rescue of Persephone. Generous mother. In her mythology, Demeter was the most generous goddess. She gave humanity agriculture and harvests. She helped raise Demophoon and would have made him immortal, and provided the Eleusinian mysteries. These expressions of bountifulness are all found in Demeter women. Some naturally provide tangible food and physical care. Some provide emotional and psychological support, while others give spiritual nourishment. Many famous women, religious leaders, have had Demeter qualities and have been seen by their followers as maternal figures. The saintly recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, Mary Baker Eddy, who founded the Christian Science religion, the women referred to simply as the mother, spiritual leader of the Aurobindo ashram in India. Apologies for mispronunciations here. And of course, this book was written in the 80s, and so there's going to be evolutions, of all these examples. Some are more problematic than others. We're not going to dive too deep, but I just want to acknowledge that Mother Teresa was not as saintly as we have painted her out to be. The grieving mother. So the susceptibility of depression, and this is where we get into some of the psychology. When the Demeter archetype is a strong force and women cannot fulfill it, she may suffer from a characteristic emptiness depression. A woman who yearns to have a child may be barren, or a child may die or leave home, or her job as surrogate mother may end and she may miss her clients or students. Then, rather than rage or actively strike out at those she holds responsible, which would be Hera's way of reacting, the Demeter woman tends to sink into depression. She grieves. Her life feels devoid of meaning and empty. Dr. Pauline Bart, a professor of sociology at the University of Illinois, wrote an article about depressed Demeter women entitled Mother Portnoy's Complaint. Bart studied the records of over 500 women who were hospitalized for the first time between the ages of 40 and 59. She found that extremely nurturant, overly involved mothers who lost their maternal role were the most depressed. Prior to their illnesses, these women were supermother types with a history of making sacrifices. Quotes from these depressed women revealed their emotional investment in providing for others and the emptiness they felt when their children left. One woman said, "Naturally, as a mother, you hate to have your daughter leave home. I mean, it was a void there." Another commented, "I was such an energetic woman. I had a big house. I had my family." My daughter said, "Mother didn't serve 8 courses. She served 10." Asked what they were most proud of, all these women replied, "My children." None mentioned any other accomplishment of their own. When they lost their maternal roles, life lost its meaning. So critical to involve other aspects of the goddess and not single ourselves into one personality type. So, when a woman of late middle age becomes depressed, angry, and disappointed because her adult children are emotionally or physically distant, she becomes a grieving Demeter. She is obsessed by her sense of loss and constricts her interests. Her psychological growth stops. Possessed by the grieving aspect of the Demeter archetype, she is practically indistinguishable from other similarly suffering women. Such depressed patients show symptoms that are very much alike. Their depressed facial expressions, the way they sit, stand, walk, and sigh, the way they express pain and make others feel defensive, guilty, angry, and helpless. We know these women. So much of menopause and later life and evolving into the crone phase looks like this because we are not integrated. The destructive mother. When grieving Demeter stopped functioning, nothing would grow, and famine threatened to destroy humankind. Similarly, the destructive aspect of Demeter is expressed by withholding what another person needs, in contrast to Hera and Artemis, who are actively deconstructive in their rage. A gravely depressed, non-functioning new mother can be life-endangering to her infant. Emergency room staff or a pediatrician may diagnose failure to thrive. The baby has not gained weight, is listless, and may be emaciated in appearance. Failure to thrive results when a mother withholds emotional and physical contact from her infant, as well as needed nutrition. Mothers who refuse to speak to their young children for days or even longer periods, or who isolate their small children, inflict psychological change. Inflict psychological damage through this form of withholding. Such mothers are themselves usually seriously depressed and hostile. Much more common than these extreme forms of withholding are Demeter mothers who withhold approval as their children grow more independent of them. While the mother's depression is less evident in these circumstances, withholding approval, which a child needs for self-esteem, is also connected with depression. She experiences her child's growing autonomy as an emotional loss for herself. She feels less needed and rejected, and as a result, may be depressed and angry. Cultivating Demeter. So, pause. There is so much richness in Demeter, and when we explore Persephone later, in resolving postpartum psychosis and depression and mental illness in motherhood. Okay, without realizing it, women are cultivating Demeter and inviting the archetype to become more active when they seriously consider whether to have a child. As they consider the choice, they notice pregnant women who were seemingly invisible before but now seem ever present. They notice babies, they seek out people with children, and they pay attention to children themselves. All of these activities are what Demeter women naturally do. Women cultivate Demeter by imagining themselves pregnant and having children. As they notice pregnant women hold babies and give children their full attention, the archetype may be invoked in them. Efforts to test the strength of the maternal instinct can bring it forth if the archetype is easily evocable, not otherwise. A woman may seek to shift gears and be more maternal toward a particular child, or she may want to be loved by a particular child. The child pulls for or constellates the archetype in the woman. Motivated by her feelings for the child, She will work at being more patient or be persistent on the child's behalf. As she seems to be more maternal and works at being so, the archetype of Demeter grows within her. This is something we can all cultivate. You don't naturally have to be maternal in order to cultivate a relationship with this goddess, with her archetypes and her qualities. Now, this book, I can get the glare out. This book speaks to the psychology of each archetype. My practice takes it a little bit deeper as we engage with not just the archetypes, but the actual goddesses themselves as entities, which we're not going to touch on here, but we're going to explore in future study sessions. Demeter, the woman. And you guys, I'm going to link in the chat where to get this book. Here we go. All right, let's pin that. You guys feel free to say hi. I would love to say hi to you. Okay. The Demeter woman is first and foremost maternal. In her relationships, she is nurturing and supportive, helpful and giving. She is often a lady bountiful, providing whatever she sees is needed: chicken soup, a supportive hug, money to tide a friend over, a standing invitation to come home to mother. A Demeter woman often has an aura of the Earth Mother about her. She is solid and dependable. Others describe her as having her feet on the ground as she goes about doing what needs to be done with a mixture of practicality and warmth. She is usually generous, outer directed, altruistic, and loyal to individuals and principles to the point that others may see her as stubborn. She has strong convictions and is difficult to budge when something or someone important to her is involved. I had a mother-in-law like this. Young Demeter. Some little girls are clearly budding Demeters, little mothers who cradle baby dolls in their arms. Little Hera prefers Barbie and Ken dolls, and little Athena may have a collection of historical dolls in a glass case. Young Demeter also likes to hold real babies. At 9 or 10, she's eager to babysit for her neighbors. Now, this is my friend's daughter, Junie. Parents. The relationship that Demeter women have with their parents can be better understood if we first look at the goddess Demeter's relationship with her parents. Demeter, the goddess, was the daughter of Rhea and the goddaughter of Gaia. Gaia was the primal earth mother from whom all life came, including the sky god Uranus, who became her husband. Rhea was also known as an earth goddess, although she was most famous for being the mother of the first generation Olympians. As goddess of grain, Demeter continues the lineage of female goddesses concerned with fertility. She shares other similarities with her mother and grandmother as well. For example, all three suffered when their husbands hurt their children. Gaia's husband buried her children in her body when they were born. Rhea's husband swallowed her newborn children, and Demeter's husband allowed their daughter to be abducted into the underworld. All three biological fathers displayed a lack of paternal feelings. For 3 generations, these mother goddesses suffered. Less powerful than their husbands, they were unable to stop their husbands from harming their children. However, they refused to accept the abuse, and they persisted until their children were freed. Unlike Hera, whose primary bond was the wife-husband relationship, the strongest bond of these earth mother goddesses was mother-child. Real life parallels the Demeter myth when maternal women are married to unpaternal men. In this situation, a Demeter daughter grows up closely identified with her mother and unconnected to her father. The father's attitude towards his children may range from disinterest to competitiveness and resentment, or even abusiveness, if he sees them as successful rivals for the affections of his wife. In such a household, a young Demeter's self-esteem suffers, and she develops a victim attitude. Or a Demeter daughter's maternal qualities may result in her reversing roles with immature or incompetent parents. As soon as she's old enough, she may look after her parents or become a surrogate parent for younger siblings. Now, this may explain how this was my upbringing. I was definitely treated as a second parent. And because of inconsistent parental figures and having to step into that mothering role, I can see how my own resentment of that has created a really unhealthy bond with this archetype within myself. In contrast, if a young Demeter has a father who is affectionate and approving of her, she will grow up feeling his support for her wish to be a good parent herself. She will view men positively and will have a positive expectation of a husband. An archetypal susceptibility to become victimized will not be enhanced by her childhood experience. Coffee. All right. Get the vocals out of here. Here we go. Okay. Adolescence and early adulthood. At puberty, a baby of her own becomes a biological possibility as the archetypal maternal drive gets a boost from hormones. Then some Demeter girls start yearning to become pregnant. If other aspects of her life are empty and she is herself little more than a neglected child, a young Demeter who has been coerced into sex and becomes pregnant may welcome the child. One pregnant 14-year-old girl at a shelter for unwed mothers said, "When other girls my age wanted bicycles or other things, I always wanted a baby of my own. I'm happy I'm pregnant." However, most Demeter adolescents do not become pregnant. Lacking Hera's deep wish to be part of a couple or Aphrodite's erotic drives, Demeter is not motivated to have early sexual experiences. Many Demeters marry young. In working class families, a girl may be encouraged to get married right after high school. This push may fit with a girl's own Demeter proclivities to have a family rather than an education or a job. If a young Demeter woman does not marry or begin a family, she will work or go to college. In college, she will probably take courses geared toward preparing her to enter a helping profession. A Demeter woman is not typically ambitious, intellectual, or competitive for grades, though she may do well if she's bright and interested in her classes. Status, which Hera women find important, is inconsequential to a Demeter. Her friends are often chosen across a wide social and racial range. She will go out of her way to make an ill-at-ease foreign student feel comfortable, to aid a physically handicapped student, and to help a social misfit. Work. The maternal nature of the Demeter woman predisposes her to enter the nurturing or helping professions. She is drawn toward traditionally feminine jobs such as teaching, social work, or nursing. Helping people to get well or grow is a satisfaction and an underlying motivation when Demeter is present. Women who become psychotherapists, physical therapists, rehabilitation therapists, or pediatricians are often expressing some Demeter inclinations in their occupational choice. Many women volunteers at nursery schools and elementary schools, at hospitals and nursing homes, also are putting their Demeter tendencies to work. Some Demeter women become key figures in organizations which receive their maternal energy. Typically, the Demeter woman in such a situation is personally impressive. She may have envisioned and founded the organization, thrown her considerable energy into it, and been personally responsible for its early success. Demeter women in leadership and founding mother positions may seek counseling for several reasons. The organization can take so much effort that it leaves her virtually no time or energy for anything else. Personal yearnings for a mate, if Hera is also present, and for a child of her own may go unmet. Conflicts arise within her and between her and those she supervises because she is a person with authority who sees herself and is seen by others as a nurturing figure. It's difficult for her to fire or confront an incompetent employee, for example, because she feels sorry for the person and guilty for causing pain. Moreover, employees expect her to look after them personally, an expectation they usually do not have of male supervisors, and are resentful and angry whenever she does not. Relationships with women. Demeter women are not competitive with other women for either men or achievements. Any envy or jealousy of other women will concern children. A Demeter woman without children compares herself unfavorably to women her age who are mothers. If she is infertile, she may feel bitter at the ease with which others get pregnant, especially if they have abortions. Later in life, if her grown children live far away or emotionally distant, she will envy the mother who has frequent contact with her children. At that stage of life, envy may resurface after 25 years, this time over grandchildren. Demeter women have mixed feelings about feminism in the women's movement. Many Demeter women resent feminists for devaluing the role of motherhood. They want to be full-time mothers and now feel pressured to work outside the home. On the other hand, Demeter women strongly support many women's issues, for example, protecting children against abuse and providing shelters for battered women. Usually, Demeter women have solid friendships with other Demeter women. Many such friendships date back to when they were new mothers together. Many rely more on their women friends than on their husbands for emotional support, as well as for tangible help. For example, one woman said, "When I was in the hospital, my friend Ruth took the kids in and had my husband Joe over every night for dinner. For 2 weeks, she fed 9 kids, her 4 and my 5, and 3 adults. I'd have done the same for her." Typically, this woman made arrangements for help rather than expect her husband to take care of the home and children in her absence. The Demeter woman, could be the key we need to build the village for postpartum mothers. Within families, mothers and daughters who are all Demeter women may remain close for generations. These families have a decided matriarchal caste. And the women in the family know what is going on in the extended family much more than the husbands do. This mother-daughter pattern may also be duplicated with peers. She may take the Demeter maternal role with a Persephone-like friend who is inexperienced and indecisive. Or, if both are Demeter women who also share Persephone qualities, they may take turns mothering each other, and at other times can both be Demeters, sharing details of their lives and talking about their joys and difficulties. Or, yet again, they may both be playful, giggling Persephones. Lesbian couples sometimes fit a Demeter Persephone pattern in which a Demeter woman's well-being depends on the intactness of the relationship with a younger or less mature lover. As long as they are together, a Demeter woman feels productive and fertile. Her work and her creativity thrive as a result of being with a woman who is like a goddess to her. She may be possessive of her Persephone if she fears that she may lose her. And she may foster dependence and exclusiveness, which eventually harms the relationship. However, a Persephone woman is a young, undifferentiated personality. Everything about her is unformed and indistinct. She is a receptive, feminine woman whose sexual preference may be as malleable as the rest of her. Even though she may be a lesbian in a lesbian relationship, for example, she may also be attracted to a man. If a Persephone woman leaves her Demeter lover when her heterosexuality emerges in response to a man's attentions, the Demeter woman feels as if the myth itself has been reenacted. Unexpectedly, her Persephone has been abducted by Hades, which is a devastating loss. Relationships with men. A Demeter woman attracts men who feel an affinity for maternal women. A true to type Demeter woman does not do the choosing. She responds to a man's need for her and may even be with a man because she feels sorry for him. Demeter women don't have high expectations of men. More often, they feel that men are just little boys. A common type of couple where the woman is Demeter fits the pattern of great mother mated to a son lover. This archetypal mother son relationship does not refer to a difference in chronological years, although the man may be younger. Usually, he is a talented, sensitive man who feels unappreciated or misunderstood by others who do not value his specialness as she does, and who doesn't overlook his irresponsibility as she does. He is an immature, self absorbed boy with a sense of specialness more than he is a man. Oh my God. Okay. So much to unpack here about my ex husband and the type of mother he had. Holy shit. Okay. Ah. She agrees with his self assessment and repeatedly overlooks behavior toward her that others consider selfish and thoughtless. Oh my gosh. This is why. Yes, this explains the types of women he's married after me. Okay. As far as she is concerned, the world is unkind to him. It should make exceptions for him as she does. Okay, this is where I depart from Demeter. His thoughtlessness often hurts and angers her, but if he then tells her how much he appreciates her or how she's the only person in his life that really cares about him, all is again forgiven. Like a mother of a handsome son who wonders how she could have given birth to such a young god, the Demeter woman playing great mother to his son lover role may also be in awe of his appearance or his talent. She may say, as one Demeter had said to me, he looked to me like a Michelangelo statue of David. I was happy taking care of him. I spoiled him rotten. She said this with pride rather than bitterness. A Demeter woman's maternal qualities and her difficulties in saying no make her vulnerable to being used by a sociopath, another type of man often found in relationships with Demeter women. The Demeter sociopath relationship may superficially resemble a great mother son lover relationship, and there is some overlap, but the son lover has the ability to love, be loyal, or be remorseful. The sociopath lacks these capacities, which makes a crucial difference. The sociopath acts on the assumption that his needs entitle him to receive. He is incapable of emotional intimacy or appreciation. His attitude suggests the question, "What have you done for me lately?" He forgets past generosity or sacrifices on the part of the Demeter woman, as well as his past exploitative behaviors. He magnifies his needs, and that neediness invites a generous Demeter response. A relationship with a sociopath may tie up a Demeter woman's emotional life for years and may drain her financially. Another Demeter typical mate is the man who wants a girl just like the girl who married dear old dad. As little Oedipus, he may have just been biding his time. He was the little boy of 4 or 5 who wanted to marry his mommy. Now he is a grown man who seeks a maternal woman who will be a good mother to him. He wants her to be nurturing, warm, responsive, and caretaking, to look after his meals, buy and take care of his clothes, make sure he goes to the doctor and dentist when he needs to, and arrange his social life. Of all the men who are attracted to Demeter qualities, the family man is the only one who is himself mature and generous. This man is strongly motivated by his wish to have a family, and he sees in the Demeter woman a partner for who he shares the dream. Besides being a good daddy for their children, this type of man also looks out for her. If she has trouble saying no to people who would take advantage of her Demeter good nature, he can help her look out for herself. The family man also helps her fulfill herself through bearing children. The other 3 types are threatened by the idea of children and may insist on an abortion if she gets pregnant. This insistence will put her into a maternal crisis, either reject the man she mothers or reject motherhood. The choice makes her feel like a mother given the impossible choice of sacrificing one of 2 children. Sexuality. When Demeter is the strongest goddess element in a woman's personality, her sexuality is usually not very important. Demeter does not usually have a strong sexual desire. She is often a warm, affectionate, feminine person who would rather as soon cuddle as make love, a huggy woman rather than a sexy woman. Many Demeter women have a puritanical attitude towards sex. For them, sex is for procreation, not for pleasure. Some Demeter women think of sex as what a wife provides in the context of giving or nurturing. She is providing what her husband needs. And many Demeter women keep a guilty secret to themselves. For them, the most sensual physical act is breastfeeding their infants, not making love to their husbands. Marriage. Let's see, how much further do we have? We have so much to read. Okay. Okay. For a Demeter woman, marriage in itself is not an overriding priority as it is for a Hera woman. Most Demeter women want to get married mainly in order to have children. Unless she has Aphrodite or Hera as active archetypes, the Demeter woman views marriage as a simply necessary step that paves the way for children and the best situation in which to have children. Goodness. Okay. Children. A Demeter woman feels a deep need to be a biological mother. She wants to give birth and nurse her own child. She also may be a loving foster mother, adoptive mother, or stepmother. But if she cannot also have a child of her own, a deep longing will go unmet and she will feel barren. In contrast, many Artemis or Athena women would just as soon inherit a ready made family by marrying a man with children. Demeter women uniformly perceive themselves as good mothers who have the best interests of their children in mind. From the standpoint of their impact on their children, however, Demeter women seem to be either superbly able mothers or terrible, all consuming mothers. When her adult children resent her, a Demeter woman is deeply wounded and confused. She cannot understand why her children treat her badly, while other mothers have children who love and appreciate them. She also cannot see that she may have contributed to her children's difficulties. She is conscious only of her positive intentions, not of the negative elements that poison the relationship with her children. Yeah, there we go. Whether or not a Demeter mother has had a positive, where should we put this? Here we go. Whether or not a Demeter mother has had a positive effect on her children and is positively regarded by them depends on whether she was like the goddess Demeter before the abduction or after the abduction. Before the abduction of Persephone, Demeter trusted that all was well as Persephone played in the meadow and went about her activities. After the abduction, Demeter was depressed and angry. She left Mount Olympus and ceased to function. The before phase takes many forms in real life. For the woman who faces an empty nest when her last child leaves home and then feels as if her sense of meaning has been abducted, the before phase was the close and caring family life that lasted for some 25 years. For the woman whose daughter defies her to live with a man the mother considers as an abducting Hades, the before phase was when her daughter seemed an extension of herself who shared the same values and hopes for the future. Some Demeter mothers always fear that something bad may happen to their child. These mothers may act as if they anticipate the possibility of an abduction from the time a child is born. They consequently limit the child's independence and discourage the formation of relationships with others. As the heart of the anxiety that motivates them to act this way is a feared loss of the child's affection. Circumstances may also be responsible for activating the negative side of Demeter. One woman recalled that for 6 years after her daughter was born, she existed as though in a state of grace. The world was safe, motherhood was fulfilling and fun. Then an event occurred that was as distressing and sudden as Hades emerging from a vent in the earth. One afternoon, the mother left her daughter in the care of a sitter. The daughter wandered off to a neighbor's house and was sexually molested. Afterward, the child became fearful and anxious had nightmares, and was apprehensive around men, even her father. The mother raged, grieved, and felt guilty because she had not been there to prevent the incident. Before, she had been generous, trusting, and somewhat casual in her mothering style. Afterwards, she felt guilty and responsible, unsure of herself, and anxious that something bad could happen again. She became over-controlling and overprotective. Gone was her fun and spontaneity, her sense of living in a safe world, her feeling of self-confidence. A Demeter mother may feel guilty for any event that has an adverse effect on her child. Until she has had some insight into her unrealistic expectations that she should be the perfect mother, she expects herself to be all-knowing and all-powerful, capable of foreseeing events and protecting her children from all pain. With the intention of protecting her child, a Demeter woman may become over-controlling. She hovers over every move, intercedes on the behalf of the child, and takes over when there is any possibility of harm. Consequently, the child stays dependent on her to deal with people and problems. The children of a controlling Demeter mother sometimes stay forever close to her, the psychological umbilical cord still quite intact. Dominated by her personality, they remain mother's little girls or mama's boys well into adulthood. Some such children may never marry. When they do, they often maintain stronger filial bonds than conjugal ones. For example, a Demeter's son may be at his mother's beck and call to the dismay of his wife, who wishes always to take a back seat. Or a Demeter's daughter may never agree to go on a long vacation with her husband because she cannot leave her mother for that length of time. This is totally where codependency comes in. In an effort to lead their own lives, some children of an over-controlling Demeter mother may break away and stay away, creating both a geographical and an emotional distance between them. Often they do so when a mother has unconsciously tried to make them feel beholden, guilty, or dependent. Another negative mother model for Demeter women is the mother who can't say no to her children. She sees herself as a selfless, bountiful, providing mother who gives and gives. Beginning when they are young, this Demeter mother wants her children to have whatever they want. If it's much more expensive than she can afford, she either will make sacrifices to get it or will feel guilty. Moreover, she fails to set limits on behavior. From toddlerhood on, she gives in to her children's demands, nourishing their selfishness. As a consequence, her children grow up feeling entitled to special consideration and ill-prepared to conform. Their behavior promises arise in school. Their behavior problems arise in school. Their conflicts with authority disrupt employment. In her attempts to be an all-providing good mother, such a mother can become the opposite. Here is where, we're going to get into psychological difficulties, but first I'm going to continue on with this section on Demeter the woman. Okay, here we go. Middle years. The midlife period is an important time for Demeter women. If a woman has not had a child, she is preoccupied with the awareness that the biological clock is running out on the possibility of becoming pregnant. Married Demeter women raise the baby issue with reluctant spouses, and they visit fertility specialists if there are problems with conception or miscarriages. Adoption may be considered, and unmarried women contemplate becoming single mothers. Blah, blah, blah. My mouth is starting to wear down, you guys. Come on. Even if a Demeter woman has children, her midlife years are no less crucial, though she may be unaware of their importance in shaping the rest of her life. Her children are growing, and each step they take towards independence tests her ability to let go of their dependence on her. She too may now feel the pull to have a late life baby. One woman came to see me in the middle of a midlife crisis. Her children were in school, and now at age 40, it was time for her to go back to school herself if she were to grow beyond Demeter. She discovered that she was afraid that she would fail at graduate school and that another child was the only excuse she herself would accept for not enrolling. She could then separate the desire to have another baby from the fear that she would fail as a student and could focus on exploring this concern. As it turned out, she did go to graduate school, studies a subject she loved, and is now an inspired teacher. In her middle years, a founding mother of an organization may face a crisis when it gets large enough for others to covet her position and power. Unless she also has Athena's strategist mind and can play politics well, ambitious managers may abduct the organization she gave birth to and reared through its early years. The loss will plunge her into being an angry, grieving Demeter. Even if there are no power struggles or she survives this crisis, personal issues now arise for her and for all Demeter women who have put their maternal energy into their work. Now it is time to consider what is missing in her life and what she might do to fulfill herself. What's coming up for me now is the importance of helping new mothers, pregnant mothers, discover where this archetype is hiding in themselves, where it's actually really super present if they heavily identify with Demeter, and what unhealthy aspects it has served to them if it hasn't been fully embraced. Later years. In their later years, Demeter women often fall into two categories. Many find this phase of life very rewarding. They're active, busy women, as they always were, who have learned from life and who are appreciated by others for their down-to-earth wisdom and generosity. They are Demeter women who have learned not to tie people to them or to allow them to take advantage. Instead, these women have fostered independence and mutual respect. Children, grandchildren, clients, students, or patients who span generations may love and respect her. She is like the goddess Demeter at the end of her myth, who gave humankind her gifts and was greatly honored. The opposite fate befalls a Demeter woman who considers herself a victim. The source of her unhappiness usually stems from the disappointments and unfulfilled expectations of midlife. Now identified with the mourning, betrayed, angry Demeter who sat in her temple and allowed nothing to grow, such a woman does nothing with her later years but grow older and more bitter. And that is where we will leave off. There is so much to say about the devalued and bastardized versions of the Demeter goddess. If we look around to postmenopausal or elder women who have not been appreciated or who have had their children abducted by the world or have had unhealthy relationships with their children that have caused their children to be distanced, we see how this plays out in the lack of maternal gifts later in life and the deprivation and the lack of nourishment that humanity feels from a devalued mother goddess. Comment with your thoughts. I will continue the next section on this chapter on Demeter about psychological difficulties. We're going to explore how to navigate this archetype within us, within society. We're reading from Goddesses in Everywoman, the 1985 edition. I think this is not the first print. Maybe this is the second print. No, this is the first edition published in 1985. Very happy to share this with you. We will stream again very soon in these sacred study sessions. Thanks for joining.